Welcome everyone to Numerical Gems. When Moshe Rabbeinu receives the first tablets from God, when he's up on Mount Sinai, and the Torah says that the first tablets were written with the finger of God, charut al luchot. In the letters, the words were engraved. Charut means engraved on the tablets of the law, luchot habrit. The numerical value of charut is 614. In 1 second, we'll see the significance of that. The sages say, don't read it charut al luchot, read it cherut al luchot. In other words, the same word, but the vowels are different. Charut means engraved. Cherut means freedom. So the sages wanted us to read freedom on the tablets of the law. In other words, that the mitzvot, the commandments, they are our ticket to freedom. Now we'll notice that charut and cherut equals 614, and we know that we have 613 Torah mandated mitzvot. So the simple teaching here is the way to freedom is 613 mitzvot. The very next number is 614. That is cherut. And some might ask, how are doing all the mitzvot freedom? Isn't freedom I can do what I want, when I want, where I want, with whom I want? Isn't that freedom? But in a Jewish definition, since we all have an animal soul that is tying us very, very much to our bodily desires, that as long as we're ruled by our animal soul, that is not freedom. Someone could be the richest person in the world, can have all the power in the world, but if they're ruled by their animal soul, from a spiritual point of view, they are so far from freedom. So here, this is a very beautiful numerical gem. The 613 mitzvot, add one. In other words, what's the next step? Is freedom. Now we have another numerical component here. So how do we rule over our animal soul? And so we learn, the Alter Rebi taught this, other Hasidic Rebbe's taught this, that hamoach shalit al halev, the mind has to rule over the heart. The heart meaning the emotions. The emotions are very vital. They're not always in sync, in balance. They're like a roller coaster of the emotions. And so in order to be able to not to destroy the animal soul, we have an animal soul, and when it's channeled, when it's directed, when it's refined, has tremendous positive power. But we can do that only when the mind rules over the heart. Even so, the Alter Rebi, the first Rebi of the Chabad movement, also taught, even though that's the general principle, there is a certain point in the heart that must be listened to, that even supersedes the intellect. So we have to make a balance between the mind and the heart. But still, the general principle is the mind rules over the heart. So here we see a very beautiful numerical gem that in the 10 sfirot, the three highest sfirot are Chochmah, wisdom, Bina, understanding, and Dat, knowledge. Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Chochmah, Bina, Dat. In fact, that is the acronym of Chabad. Chabad is Chochmah, Bina, Dat. The mind rules over the heart, but also knows that at certain times we must listen to the inner voice of the heart. But here we see, if we take the numerical value of these three words, these three sfirot, the three highest sfirot, Chachma, Bina, Dat, it equals exactly 614, equals freedom. So freedom on the luchot, freedom on the tablets of law, the mitzvot that we do with great emotion, but we're ruled by wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. This is our pathway to freedom. May we all walk on it and enjoy the freedom that the Torah gives us.